This week, updates for your Pi. What not to use when reading PDFs, Unity attacks, the rise of the machines, an article that really got under my skin. I can't believe I just made that joke, but anyway, you'll find out what that means. Secret chips and a new method to discover spearfishing. Jason Wood from Paladin Security joins us this week to talk about being spied on while having sex or something like sensational like that really doesn't have to do with having. Anyway, all that and more on this episode of Hack Naked News. This is Security Weekly, for security professionals by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show that brings you the security news each week. And despite popular belief, we do wear pants. It's Hack Naked News.
Most of the organizations I work with, they have
released. Yes, you read it.
Actually do
the original Linux kernel security with Linux kit.
So I hope everybody has their resistance built up.
Brought to you by IT Pro TV is the resource to keep you and your IT team's skills up to date. IT Pro TV's team solution provides group pricing and access to their supervisor portal. You'll gain full control over your team's training schedule, see individual and group analytics, and more. IT Pro TV does IT live every day, so you know you're getting the most current IT training. Go to itpro.tv/hacknaked and use the code HN30 to try it free for 7 days and receive 30% off your monthly membership for the lifetime of your active subscription. To learn more about IT Pro TV's team solution, sign up for a free demo of their supervisor portal. Do you have a website, an external presence, employees, an office? Any of these things can be compromised and attacked. How are you defending these assets? Have you penetration tested these public assets? Start 2017 by taking a proactive approach to securing your vulnerable areas. Black Hills Information Security has been helping companies find their weaknesses since 2008. Email consulting@blackhillsinfosec.com and see how they can help you sleep better at night. Welcome everyone to Hack Naked News, episode 137. This is someday in August 22nd, 2017. I'm your host, Paul Asadorian. Excited to be here as always. Quick announcement, itpro.tv/hacknaked. Use the code HN30. Make sure you check out the new supervisor portal. That's right. Your employer can go buy some training via a subscription. Now, the discount is for the monthly subscription for the lifetime of your active subscription. And your employer can go buy one. They can assign training modules to you and keep track on your progress and hopefully give you more time to get trained up. And domaintools.com/security weekly. We're doing a webcast. Myself, Joff Thayer, Tim, and Kyle are going to be talking about domains and IP addresses and some awesome things you can do quickly and easily to help secure your environment. It is not to be missed. And now we're going to talk about the security news for this week. I hate my teleprompter. I've already stated this on the show multiple times. Anyway, once I get over the hate of my teleprompter, which won't happen until we get a new one, Raspberry Pi has an OS refresh to Debain Stretch. Includes new versions of pre-installed Raspbian applications, Bluetooth improvements, changes to the default login, and a key security fix. If you want more details on exactly what was fixed, you can read all of the Debian security updates because it's essentially the same thing. Also, independent of Debian, the Pi user, the username Pi on the system, will no longer have sudo access without a password. Good to see some security improvements to the Raspbian distribution, though I do wish they would force a user to set a password for the Pi user instead of just disabling SSH by default, which is better than before, where SSH was turned on and there was a default username and password on the device. 2 zero-day vulnerabilities were disclosed after Foxit refuses to patch it. 2 code execution vulnerabilities were discovered by 2 separate researchers in Foxit's PDF reader. Both researchers contacted Foxit about the issue shortly thereafter with the intention of following a 120-day responsible disclosure timeline. But they ultimately decided to disclose the flaws early after Foxit revealed that it had no intention of fixing the bugs. Rather than just fixing the vulnerabilities, Foxit said this: Foxit Reader and Phantom PDF has a safe reading mode, which is enabled by default to control the running of JavaScript, which can effectively guard against potential vulnerabilities from unauthorized JavaScript actions. We all know that users and potentially malicious software has the ability to disable such safeguards, leaving users still vulnerable. So I suggest that you don't use that software, given their stance on vulnerabilities. Game developers warned of a remote vulnerability in Unity. The popular Unity gaming platform used by professionals and hobbyists alike is vulnerable to remote compromise because of a flaw in the Windows game editor. The company warned on August 18th. Unity advised developers who use the Windows version of its editor to update immediately. Users of the Mac version are not affected, but they got a new release anyway, just to keep them in sync. Not much in the way of details are available. However, it is said that distributing a file to these users is how the exploit is triggered. Vulnerable libraries, or worse, a backdoored library, is seemingly more common today. So if you're using Unity, make sure you apply the updates. Killer robots are coming, and Elon Musk is very worried. He is just one of executives who are worried about the real-life version of Skynet. And I quote from the coalition they formed: "Lethal autonomous weapons threaten to become the third revolution in warfare." The group of CEOs and CTOs wrote in an open letter organized by the Future of Life Institute and released on Sunday. They went on to say, once developed, they will permit armed conflict to be fought at scale greater than ever and at timescales faster than humans can comprehend. These can be weapons of terror, weapons that dispose and terror. There's a typo in there, sorry. Terrorists use against innocent populations, and weapons hacked to behave in undesirable ways. I do believe we have more pressing issues in terms of security, security and information security and security of the nation, but good to ready your EMPs when the machines start attacking. Get on that. You can probably buy them on Amazon, or maybe not. I'm not sure. Anyway, you could probably find it on the internet because, you know, if you click your heroes twice and look on the internet, it exists. Anyway, doctor implanted 6 microchips under his skin to unlock doors and secure data. This is the story that got under my skin. Get it? It's been reported that a Siberian doctor has already implanted not 1, but at least 6 microchips underneath his skin and turned his body into a multifunctional gadget for doing a number of jobs just by the wave of his hands. Now, typically these devices are based on an RFID technology. In fact, Security Weekly host Larry Pesce implanted one in his hand, in my kitchen, mind you, and was recorded in a segment which we've since lost the misplaced the footage that must be resurrected, because now I really want to watch it. We need to find that. We did this several years ago, and I believe it is still implanted to this day. Other researchers have implanted NFC chips in their hands to more easily hack into your smartphone. This sits somewhere between biometrics and hardware-based multi-factor authentication, as it's not easy to change or swap out the device. But does solve the problem of you're forgetting your authentication token and not having it close by when you need it, or easily lost. If you misplace your hand, you've got bigger issues than multi-factor authentication. Is this the future? Perhaps. In the meantime, please do not attempt to put electronics inside of your body, especially saying that you heard it on this show. Just please don't do that. It's not recommended. We do not condone this activity. Larry did it under his own free will, and we recorded it on the show. But we don't condone this type of behavior. Secret chips, not ones placed in your body, but secret chips placed inside of your phones, can compromise the security. The concern arises from research that shows how replacement screens, one's put into Huawei's Nexus 6P and another into an LG G Pad 7.0, can be used to They can be used to log keyboard input and patterns, install malicious apps, and take pictures and email them to an attacker. The booby-trapped screens also exploited operating system vulnerabilities that bypassed key security protections built into the phones. The malicious parts cost less than $10 and could be easily mass-produced. And that was a quote directly from the article. The worst part is detectability, in my opinion. It is very difficult to differentiate between a valid replacement part from a malicious one, visually anyhow. This is an interesting attack and should make us question where parts are coming from and more importantly, the best way to test them for backdoors. Facebook has awarded $100,000 to researchers for credentialed spearfishing detection method. And I quote the technique: directed anomaly scoring operates as a non-parametric fashion, cherry-picking what Ho and Company, Ho is one of the researchers, it calls most suspicious events from an unlabeled data set. The technique ranks events by how dubious they appear. Interesting, I think, sounds pretty close to what's being termed as machine learning. It should be noted that the team was able to detect 6 of 9 known spearfishing attacks, and emphasis on known spearfishing attacks, although there were other tests that tested its ability for not so widely publicized spearfishing attacks. It remains to be seen if this technology will be useful in the real world. And now, a very short break, and we'll be back with Jason Wood for the expert commentary this week on people trying to use my phone to spy on me when I'm having sex, apparently, is the head. I think the issue goes deeper than that. Anyway, we'll be right back. Has your network been breached? Cybereason can help you answer this question. Cybereason products hunt for threats within your network and eliminate them in real time. To Cybereason, real time means within seconds. Founded by former military hackers who don't play by the rules, they've built this experience into their platform. Harness ingenuity and imagination, not just code, to defeat attackers. Cybereason. Disrupt the adversary and let the hunt begin. Gain control of cyber risk with Tenable.io, the first vulnerability management platform built for today's elastic assets like cloud, containers, and web apps. Discover a fresh, asset-based approach that prioritizes vulnerabilities while seamlessly integrating into your environment. And improve ROI with the first elastic licensing approach based on assets, not IP addresses. Tenable.io delivers the data and context you need to secure your elastic attack surface. Start your free Tenable.io trial today by visiting Tenable.io. Welcome back, everyone. This has been a very punny episode of Hack Naked News. Grim has a new product called Crossbow. You can use it to test your security environment, build malware just like Legos. Well, it's more complicated than that, but it allows you to test your security architecture and products in your environment. Make sure you check them out, grim-co.com. SANS Pentest Hackfest is happening November 13th through the 20th in Bethesda, Maryland. Hackfest is SANS' most offensive-focused training, led by Mr. Ed Scotus. 3 nights of Net Wars with Coinapalooza, 1 night of Cyber City missions, and a super secret challenge. Make sure you go check it out. There is a discount for Security Weekly listeners, and you can register at sans.org/Hackfest17. The discount code is Hackfest17. Use that at registration. And now, the one, the only, Jason Wood is here with us. Jason, welcome to the show.
Hey, Paul.
That was a very dramatic introduction.
That was very dramatic.
No reason. Other than you have the expert commentary for this week.
I was going to say, I have heard of other Jason Woods, so I'm not sure if I'm the only.
Okay.
But
you are
I
the
still
one.
Appreciate the heck out of it. So yes, as Paul alluded to, this was a blog post that I spotted on Graham Cluley's blog. The headline, I'll just give this directly from the blog, is "Sonar-based attack could help hackers infer when you're having sex."
So sensational, Graham. Did you have to be that sensational, Graham? Like, what? Really? You're not the Register. Come on now.
And it was kind of an interesting bit of research, which is why, well, the headline caught my attention, I'll be honest. But then I started reading into it, and I got kind of intrigued by what happened. So some researchers, this is academic research, much like the award that Facebook granted to the researchers there. Not something I think it has lots of practical implication, but it's still very interesting. What these researchers from the University of Washington did was they started looking at smartphones, TVs, our lovely Amazon devices that shall not be named because she'll start listening to whatever I'm saying more closely, to track what an individual is doing inside their home without their knowledge. And they kind of asked this question of themselves. And the first thought that came to my mind was like, well, turn on the microphone or something like that. But they decided to go a bit more complex than that. And what they did is they used the same principles behind sonar to track people's movement as they walked around or did various things inside of their homes. They used stock speakers or Bluetooth speakers and the stock microphones built into the devices to perform this sonar-based attack. And they created an Android app that pretends to be like a, let's say, a music player that performs this reconnaissance. And basically, the way it works is you turn on your malicious music player, start listening to your favorite track, and what's going on is the application is broadcasting sonar-based pings in the 18 to 20 kilohertz range, which is difficult for humans to hear, and playing these blasting these pings out as you're playing your music. The reason why they built it into a music player was to help disguise. Mm-hmm. For those who are maybe a little bit more sensitive.
I'm very
essentially
sensitive,
what happened, Jason. You're very sensitive? Very yes, sensitive. I believe that. I believe that. So the pings go out. They bounce off the individual. The stock microphone picks up the feedback. The sound waves bouncing back, essentially. They're sensitive enough to pick that up. And they're able to build a 2D map of where somebody is inside of a room. And it's not even as simple as having the device in the room with you. They can actually have it in another room where you're playing the music, close the door, and still detect what you're doing in the next room. So they're able to track people as they walked around the room. They were also able to tell when somebody is moving around while in the same physical location, meaning in place. So like doing push-ups or push-ups maybe in your bed, things like that.
But they can't detect the type of motion.
They can't detect the type of motion. It's based on a lot of inference. So what happens is with the sound waves, as they're moving around.
Graham, really? That headline is a stretch and a half. Come on now.
So they showed in their research where the difference between the sound wave of somebody moving around, walking through their room, and when they're doing something in place. The sound wave they described as linear motion being detected and rhythmic motion being detected.
So I could be like plunging my toilet.
You could be plunging your toilet, and they will be
hammering with hammer and nails. They wouldn't
exactly. This is basically it's inferred. Really, what caught my attention about this is just the ability. I have never thought about the idea of, hey, my smart TV over here, which has a microphone and plays music, could essentially do a sonar-based attack to watch me move around my house.
Yeah, there's been other stories that
we've somebody else.
There's been other stories, Jason, that we've covered on this subject as well, and it might have been TVs that they can send. I think it was TVs that they can send a signal over the air to the TV, and the TV will send out a signal and they can capture that, something like that.
Yeah.
There was a story similar to that, and there have been stories where your smartphone can emit sounds, as these researchers have said, and infer certain things about your environment. How specific that is, I think, remains to be seen, because it hasn't, theoretically hasn't been tested in the wild, although there have been some Trojan apps that have done some similar kinds of potentially nefarious behavior along those lines. I think it's interesting. I think even as much validity as I put into academic papers such as this, because quite frankly, many of them have now being incorporated into advanced malware. It takes a few years to get there, but certainly they are incorporated. I don't think this is anything we need to be immediately worried about, or even worried about in the future, that malware is going to be able to tell which room I'm in. Maybe
and what you're doing wandering around.
Yeah, maybe I can tell if I'm inside or outside, things like that, and that might be useful information to advertisers potentially, but I don't know. There's a lot worse privacy issues going on.
To me, this article was just interesting from the idea, this paper. Because they did have a physical map of a room, and they were able to show where their people were walking around, how much time they spent in specific spots in like a bathroom and things like that. And I thought it was just interesting because, hey, here's a new, different technique. When I say sonar, people think of submarines. Well, in this case, we're thinking of your Samsung television hanging over the mantle, right, that you're playing music on. There's a lot of caveats that go on to this. One, you have to have the application installed. You have to be playing music. The bad guy has to be able to pick it up some way, which these folks were able to do via Bluetooth. but still, you know, we are, one of the things I think that's interesting about this is we are inviting a lot of devices that are running microphones all the time inside of our environment into our rooms. We're playing music from, you know, like with our Alexa, who just turned on over here staring at me now. Using that to play music and control that. So it could be rather interesting to see, you know, how does this get abused? I mean, one of the things we have thought that some attacks are more far-fetched and difficult to get out there, and then you start hearing about things occurring as attack tools being released from organizations like the NSA. Mm-hmm. So who knows? It's interesting. It's worth, I think, checking out the blog post. They have video and link to the paper that was done by the researchers. Kind of cool. I just thought it was a fun little hack. It raises a little bit of an issue as to what these devices are capable of.
Fantastic, Jason. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching to this edition of Hack Naked News. See you next time.